Commissioner, I have 1 o'clock. Do you wish to get started?
Absolutely. Let's go. Nick's on the screen. Everybody can hear me, I hope. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Commissioner Steve Jonsson. Welcome to all of you for tuning in to our first virtual town hall meeting on the hurricane preparedness. Over the past several months, the coronavirus quarantine and restrictions on group gatherings have made it impossible for our emergency management office to make springtime visits to neighborhoods and community meetings to pass along the most important messages for the upcoming hurricane season. So we decided to reach you in a different way this year, and that is through a virtual town hall. I thank everyone for their patience and their interest in getting this year's update. Joining me today is Steve Lischauer, our emergency management chief, and Jake Sauer, our public safety director. Together, they have more than 50 years of combined public service to this community. Steve is going to tell you how to find out if your home is safe enough to shelter in place, or if you're in an evacuation zone, he's going to give you suggestions on where to find safer ground. If an evacuation notice goes out, we will open some public shelters with social distancing restrictions and other safeguards. However, the coronavirus is extremely dangerous, as you all know, and it is extremely contagious, and there is no perfect preventive measure we can take to completely guarantee the virus does not enter a shelter or that it spreads to those that are there, even if they're wearing face masks and washing hands regularly. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Director Sauer and Chief Lischauer, and they will be presenting a 20-minute video and give you some tips on how to stay safe. And then once that's over with, we will open this up for any questions, those of you that have been kind enough to tune in, that we hopefully can try to answer as we go into this hurricane season. So with that, I will turn it over to Steve and Jake and let you all give your presentation. And thank you all again so much for tuning in.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll be brief. Steve's going to give you an update on this year's hurricane season, as the commissioner said. And then after that, we're available for some questions should anybody have any. So Steve, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Director Sauer. I'm now going to share a screen and a slide presentation for everyone. And like has been said, we will entertain questions at the end. So you should be seeing the screen. What we're going to be talking about is knowing your home, and that's talking about the strength of your home. Know your level, which is what evacuation level you're in. We'll give you some evacuation tips, preparing your home, sandbag locations, the difference between the 911 and the 311 system. So hurricane this season is going to be a little more active than last year. We have going to have 16 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. What I want to enforce upon all of you right now is we're just in the first week of the hurricane season, and we already have 3 named storms. And what we want you to know is it only takes one. So don't get caught up in 16 named storms or 8 hurricanes. It only takes that one. And please listen to our advice, our evacuation levels as we go on. So a lot of people ask about when hurricane season is. It starts June the 1st, but the peak of the season, if you are watching by Zoom, if you see my cursor, the peak of the season is September the 10th. Let me take you back to Hurricane Irma, and someone can guess when Hurricane Irma hit. So there is no season that's not gonna hit. It's just the peak of the season's in September. This is a graph over a 100-year period. But as I said, before June 1 or now, we already have 3 named storms. We've always told you about having a disaster kit. Disaster kits now is more important now than ever. We need you to stock up now. As you saw during the pandemic from day one on, there was a shortage of all types of supplies. There's still a shortage of certain things. So don't entirely strip the shelves, but get your kit ready. Some of the things we want to remind you of is have supplies now at least a week. We used to recommend 3 to 5 days. Now we're recommending 7 to 10 days. So that's a little change. We want to make sure you have that. The other thing we need to remind you of is take your prescription bottles with you. Because if it's a bad storm and you evacuate, your home's destroyed, your doctor's office is destroyed, and your pharmacy is destroyed, you need proof of that prescription. The other thing that's never been done in your kit is we want you to pack your mask. You can't see it real good, but I have my mask here. Don't go anywhere without it, but pack masks, gloves, hand sanitizers. As we get into sheltering, we will be talking about wearing masks at shelters, and everyone should be wearing a mask when they're out in the public, but get some of those items in addition to your bottled water, your canned foods, and etc. So that's important this year to add mask, gloves, and hand sanitizer. All right, sorry for the delay. All right, so pets now. We want to talk about your pets. Everybody loves their fur babies, and you need to stock up on your fur babies. The one thing I want to talk about is a crate. You want to make sure your crate is large enough for your dogs or cats to be able to turn around and stand up in that crate. You do not want to confine them, but you do need to worry about how to pack up your pets to take, whether it's to a shelter or on a trip with you. This is very important, Manatee Ready, but this slide tells you about the strength of your home, and we'll cover that in a few minutes. But according to Manatee County Building Code, if your home was built after March of 2012, it will withstand 150 mile-an-hour winds, which is a full high category 4, 2002 to 2012, 130 mile-an-hour Cat 4, and prior to 2002 is 110 mile-an-hour wind, which is a category 2. And we'll cover those things. This slide is very important. So if you want to jot down those 3 items, that will help you determine the strength of your home as we go onward. Evacuations are called for 2 reasons. One is for storm surge, and that's the evacuation level. The second one is for mobile homes and manufactured homes. So no matter where you live, no matter what area or level you live in, if you live in a manufactured home or a mobile home, you will need to evacuate at level A. Prepare your home. Always pick up items in your driveway, in your yard, because that chair in your yard may become debris in your neighbor's bay window. So shutter, plywood your home, but please pick up your yard, because anything laying can be a projectile for your neighbors. Something that we need to remind you of is with wind speeds that EMS and fire will stop responding when the winds are 45 mile-an-hour sustained winds or more, and law enforcement stops at 55 mile-an-hour winds or more. So these 2 links are, let me click on it and see. Okay, now I need to switch screens. This one. Okay, Jake, can you tell me if I'm sharing the residential tool?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you are.
So if you go to this link, and I'm going to enter my building's address, 21. you will get this screen. And if you look under public safety, where my cursor is, see evacuation level. Well, I'm proud to tell you that the public safety complex is in not in any kind of evacuation level. That was purposely built here for that reason. But in this particular field, it would tell you what evacuation level you live in, if it was an A, B, C, D, or E. If you just scroll down a little bit more and come over here where it says property information, and you come down here, you can see now year built. If you remember that prior slide we had, that was the year built, and you can determine is it 110, 130, 150 mile an hour wind. So that is that particular link. Let me come over here. This link, Sandbag and Shelter link, is set up and it's live now. You can go there. If you see my cursor, see the little red schoolhouses? Those are the locations of the shelters. But if it's in red, that shelter is closed. Needless to say, they're all closed right now, all 24. If it was green, it would show you that shelter is open. We do not open all of our shelters at once. We open them in a phased area. So a lot of people ask, where's my closest shelter? And we do not know. We open them up in a phase concept. And the phase is depending on which way of the storm is coming. Is it coming from the east? Is it coming from the west? Is it coming from the south? So it's opened up in phase. The other one is, if you see my cursor, to me it looks like a pineapple, but it's actually a sandbag where my cursor is. So if that is dark, that sandbag location is closed. When they open up, it will change colors to this kind of an orangish color. So these are two very important links. If you have them, you ought to bookmark them, that you can find out which shelter you're in and how to find out the level of your home, and then also where we're getting sandbags. Okay. What we want to tell you is we want you to evacuate tens of miles and not hundreds of miles. We want to have you stay at a friend or a family's home outside an evacuation area. You can stay at a hotel in a safe area, or if you're going out of town, leave in plenty of time. If you lived here back during Hurricane Irma, you saw the roadways were very backed up. They were very crowded. It took people anywhere from double to triple time to get out of town. So plan ahead and leave early. But we would rather have you drive across the county to somewhere, say, out east, rather than drive to Georgia, because that way you're closer to your home, closer to your friends, and not blocking up the highways. All right, moving on to shelters. If you see the picture here, this is a typical shelter. In this day with the pandemic, you can see that's not social distancing. So we had to build in the factor of social distancing into shelters. Our shelter space has drastically decreased because of social distancing. A shelter now should be your last resort, actually a refuge of last resort. They're all located in public schools. As I said earlier, it's not necessarily the closest shelter to you will be the one that will be open. We said for many years it's a lifeboat and not a cruise ship. Now I'm saying it's more of a canoe. A shelter is a safe place from the elements. It's a safe place from the elements. You do need to bring all of your supplies, including cots and mattresses. But the space has drastically decreased. You also have to wear masks, gloves, there'll be hand sanitizers, but I'm just asking you to try to make other arrangements if at all possible to allow the reduced shelter space for those that absolutely have nowhere else to go to. We do have a medical needs shelter, which are only for oxygen dependent, electrical dependent, and Alzheimer and dementia patients. And to register for that, you can go on this link, mymanatee.org/needs. And what I ask you to do is register early. The best reference I say is if you're planning a party for 25 people and you end up having 100 people show up, that's not a good thing. So we ask that you register early so you do know whether you do report to the medical needs shelter or you would go to a general shelter, or in fact, if you would then go to a friend's or a family home. So you can do that on mymanatee.org/needs. We have code red, mymanatee.org/emergency. Emergency notifications will go out to you on that. You register for that. The other is a new tool that we started this year. We hope that you would text Manatee Ready at 888-777. That's 3 8s and 3 7s. You will get various types of updates from the coronavirus to when a storm comes. It's a good way to receive immediate text messaging. So that's a good way to receive information. You can always go to Manatee County Government's Facebook page, Twitter, and to Manatee Gov. 311 is, and probably Director Sowers will talk about that in a few minutes, a great program that he started that will take non-emergency calls that instead of having to look up, how do I contact the Utilities Department or Public Works Department, etc., and during a storm, where are sandbags opened or whatever, 311 is there instead of 911, and we'll speak about that next. So when do you call 911? You call 911 to report a fire, emergency, an accident. You don't call it for normal inquiries or weather information or directions. That's what 311 is for. So please, because during emergencies, that is very important to keep those emergency lines open, but we do have the 311 to assist with non-emergency numbers. So went rather quickly, but wanted to impress upon you to know your home, know the strengths of your home, know where your evacuation levels are, how to get that information, how to get in contact with us. So what we'll do is, Director Sowers, do you want to add anything to it before we take questions?
We can take some questions, and I'm sure that if anybody has any, and that will kick off a lively dialogue if need be.
Okay. All right. Does
if anyone would like to ask a question, you can hit the raise your hand button.
Okay. If anyone would like to ask a question, if you're on your computer, raise your hand. If you're on your phone, hit *9. If you're on a phone, *9. If you're on your computer, okay, let's see. Okay, Susan, you have a question.
I think she's, it says she's muted.
Susan?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I live in a two-story condominium building that was built in the late 70s. We did have a wind mitigation report done after we bought it in the about 10 years ago for insurance purposes, and they did give us a reduction. How do I figure out if my building is safe
They,
since it's older?
if they did a wind mitigation study, they should have in that study listed out what wind they rated that roof at.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else, if you would raise your hand or *9 to ask. Anyone else? Okay, going once. Anyone else with questions? Raise your hand or *9 to speak. All right, Director Sowers, you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to wrap up echoing your presentation there, Steve, and the importance for the residents to really start making a plan now. And if at all possible, they should make plans to evacuate with friends, family. If you're in an evacuation zone, a flood zone that we typically evacuate from, now's your chance to shore up your evacuation plan so that you don't have to go to a shelter. As Steve mentioned, our shelters are going to be at max capacity, especially with the reduction that we have during COVID-19. We know that social distancing, even though we've increased the space, those that have the space in the shelter, we've increased that so that we can promote social distancing. That's not always going to be possible in a shelter. So we are very concerned about those in shelters with the possibility of contracting COVID-19. So while you're in a shelter, you will be required to wear a mask, and they will be asking you to social distance as well. And then combine that with a lot of unknown surroundings. You and your family moved into a shelter as the storm passes. It really makes for an uncomfortable place to be during a hurricane. So we continue to encourage the public to shore up your plans so that you can make plans with friends, other family members outside of your evacuation zone, to maybe bunk up with them. It's definitely going to be more comfortable for you and your family. Hotels that you might have an eye on that works great for you and your family, or people outside of the county if possible. But you know, when we talk about hurricane season, early is never too early to start planning for your evacuation plan and where you're going to go should a hurricane come down upon us. So I'll turn it back over to you, Steve.
Excuse me. Those are all very important things as we prepare for the hurricane season. Commissioner Jonsson, do you have any ending remarks?
Yeah, and just a couple of questions for the benefit of those that are tuning in or will be tuning in as you go through the other meetings with the other districts. Regarding the shelters, are you going to have face masks available for people when they show up there? Because, you know, a lot of them are in short supply and they may have to be in that shelter for, who knows, 3, 4, maybe 5 days. And, you know, they recommend that those masks be thrown out and, you know, new ones applied. I mean, is that something that we're going to be equipped to be able to provide those people that, you know, for whatever reason are not able to come with the mask?
Yes, sir. We've been ordering face masks, gloves, and hand sanitizers. So we will have ones provided. We encourage, though, if you have them, bring your own, but we will have some on stock. We just had a statewide meeting yesterday. The state's trying to stock up right now. They do not want to deploy them yet, but they are stocking up some. But we have ordered and received face masks, gloves, and hand sanitizers. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and you also
Okay.
brought up a good point. This year, because of COVID-19, typically we keep a shelter open for 4 or 5 days if a storm was to directly hit and it's not safe to go back out in the public. Because of the social distancing and the need to get people back out of that type of close quarters in a shelter, as soon as the storm passes and it's safe for them to traverse the roadways, the shelter will begin shutting down and forcing people back out. So that's another good point with this year with COVID-19. Some shelters are sometimes slow to push back out the public that's sheltered there. But with COVID-19, as soon as the storm passes and it's safe to get back out on the roadways, that shelter will be closing down.
That's good to hear, because I know with Irma, some people were in those shelters 4 or 5 days, before they were able, even though they could have been, sent back home prior to that, but we still were under a state of emergency here in the county. So I think that's, God hope we don't have that issue, but that's a big change from prior years as far as trying to get those people out of there, provided the roads are safe enough to get them back to their residences.
Right.
So I appreciate that information, Jake.
All right, any other questions? All right, I hope y'all learned something today. We're always here to serve you. So again, 311's there to call in for non-emergency questions. And with that said, y'all be safe, and we'll conclude this presentation.
Thank you, gentlemen. Great job. Keep it up.
Thank you.